So also this week there was I would say, Quixotic article on the Foreign Affairs magazine, which is titled China's Quixotic Quest to Innovate. Statist economy can foster creativity. And it was written by an economist named George Magnus. Okay. So in my newsletter of this week, I also commented on this article. This article has obviously attract some of the debates and discussions. And the main thesis is very simple. It's actually a regurgitation of similar ideas by mainstream Western commentators and economists, which is basically saying a so-called statist economy, or in other words, a command and control top-down society like China can't create creativity, they can't create innovation. So the idea sounds appealing and sounds reasonable, right? It makes sense, in a society where everything are dictated, decided by the bosses, the governments, the whoever on top. It doesn't seem to be quite conducive to innovation. However, I have serious problems about this article, so I detailed my reasoning on my newsletter why I disagree with not only the conclusion but also the underlying premises of this article, this foreign affairs article. So first of all, I think Mr. Magnus, the economist, I think he's really attacking a straw man here. I think it's a common practice now to characterize Chinese economy as so-called statist economy. But I really seriously question about this. Compared with Western societies, China is quote unquote statist. But how do you square it with the fact that the most valuable businesses in China, Tencent, Huawei, ByteDance, Alibaba, CATL, BYD, etc., they are all private businesses. And do you know that 80% of the employment in China is also shouldered by private businesses? So in that regard, actually private businesses, private economy is more important in the Chinese society now than the state economy. So I think in a lot of the academics and people's minds about China, they still instinctively group China with some country like, say, Soviet Union, right? But I think it was self-defeating. It's delusional to group these countries together. China of today is, I call China a state-private hybrid economy. It's a very different animal from something like Soviet Union. Okay, but I think many people would not stop thinking of them in the same way because it's definitely more intellectually comfortable, right? It will be more intellectually comfortable if you think you're only dealing with another Soviet Union here, not China. But China is different. It's not Soviet Union. I've iterated again and again. China is not Soviet Union. Okay. And I also ask, even if China is statist, does statism automatically lead to a lack of innovation? I think history tells us the otherwise, right? There are a lot of examples. I listed some of them here. Even the Soviets and even South Korea, Taiwan, all these economies, they are the most creative and innovative during a time of tight tight control, either military dictatorships or communist societies. It seems, the causal relationship between a political system and innovation and creativity, the causal relationship doesn't really stand the test of examination. Okay. So I said it's far from a self-evident truth that there's a causal relationship here. So why? Why? I mean, intuitively we think there's a causal relationship. We think that a society is too much about control will be less about innovation. That's our intuition, right? But why the facts doesn't really align that well with intuition. So I think that's really the most important part of my article. I try to lead you to look at innovation, not from a lens of, high ideals like state, the economy, ideology. No, let's look at innovation at the most grounded, the most basic level, the operational level, the level of actual innovators, actual people who do innovation and what would make them do innovation. Okay. So, it turns out, I think the most important factor for having an innovation in my article, I said, basically innovation requires a problem to be solved. Okay. So I think that's very crucial because if I ask you to innovate, you will, I think, understandably shoot back with a question, what do I innovate on? You need something to innovate on, right? Without a problem to innovate on, without a problem that you want to make changes of, there will be no innovation. And plus that, with a willingness to solve a problem, that combined gives you possible innovation. So I come back and ask, does China have enough problems? Which is yes, we have a lot of problems. Individually and collectively, we have a lot. Businesses are having a lot of setbacks. We need to innovate our way through. Collectively, the country has a lot of major problems now. Not counting all these trade restrictions, technology embargo on this country, there's a lot of problems. But what I want to stress is, ironically, those problems are actually feeding back into this innovation loop for China. The more problems actually will lead to more potential for innovation. What I'm trying to argue is it's not a political system. It's not a specific social or cultural system that make innovation happen. It's the problems that make innovation happen. And by having the specific trade restrictions, technology embargo on China, the problems they create will contribute to more innovation in China. And I think that's as simple as that. Okay. So if you want to read more about this, please go to my newsletter, which is called China Translated. China Translated. And this is part of the article I wrote May the 31st, 2024.